moving over to Simon at Sony. Sony's history and successful in cameras, is just it never ends. The FX line, we just had one of them being shown today with a Cook lens, the FX3, a tremendously successful camera. And people were unsure about Burano when it was announced, and I can tell you right now, without making any numbers known, that it's extremely popular. It is already a very, very high level of demand. So I'm not sure if Sony likes to call it the Venice baby brother, but we like it as Venice baby brother. It sounds good, it makes it engaging, and Simon's going to talk to us about it right now.
Thank you for taking the time to sit through this presentation. As MIchel mentioned, we announced Burano right before IBC, and the first showing was at IBC this year. So let's get into it. Okay, oops, right. What is Burano and where does Burano really sit? As you can envisage, we have the Venice 2 at the very high end, and then we have the FX9, the FX6 at the lower end. Following the end of life of our dearly beloved F55, we had a big gap in the market in the mid $20,000 range. This is where Burano fits. It's a very versatile, unique cinema camera. So what we've done with Burano is we've taken key features from the Venice and key features from the FX9, FX6. So from Venice, we've taken an 8K sensor. It's not the exact same sensor. It's a very close relative to the Venice 2 sensor, but it still has dual base ISO, 16 stops of latitude. We have the PL mount capability as of a Venice 2 with a professional E-mount beneath it. So you can pretty much put any lens on this camera, just like you could with the Venice. From the FX9, we have the variable ND filter. So we go from 0.6 to 2.1. We have up to 7 stops of ND in the camera. We have phase detection autofocus from the FX6 and FX9 technology. But to bring it all together, we have included in-body image stabilization for the first time within a cinema camera with a PL mount. And that is what makes the camera very, very special. So it's a new concept. It's targeted primarily for single operator. We think it more of a run and gun documentary, sports, natural history, that type of application. It does have modes where you could use it in a production type environment like you would with a Venice, but primarily all the controls are on the operator side of the camera. It looks very familiar to FX6 owners. It is made of a different material. It's a magnesium body. There's no plastic in this. It's a magnesium alloy chassis and body on the camera, but it will feel very familiar to something that's used an FX6. It's just a little bit bigger. It includes XOCN LT internal recording, which is our raw codec, which is the lightest version of the XOCN. That's included as standard of the camera, as well as multiple video codecs that are supported as well. It comes with a PL mount with a native E-mount underneath. So like I said, you could put any adapter on this and pretty much use any lens in the marketplace. Compact and lightweight, magnesium chassis is, as I mentioned, variable in-body image stabilization and fast hybrid autofocus. Makes it a kind of a unicorn camera in this marketplace. It does so many different things that it makes it very, very versatile, especially for solo shooters. But if you needed to, you could use it as a B cam on a Venice shoot like that in a production environment. It also has new media. We're using CF Express Type B media, which is VPG 400 certified. So there's no proprietary media that comes with this camera. You can just buy VPG 400 CF Express Type B and use it with this camera. So what does IBIS give you? It works in both PL mode and E-mount mode. So if you're using a PL lens, you get 3-axis correction from the sensor, which is a pitch, roll, and yaw. And you can see those are the attitudes that they impact on the correction. If you go to a 5-axis lens, E-mount lens, you get 5 axis. You get pitch, roll, yaw, X and Y correction. So very, very versatile and what you can do with this. Certainly for run and gun, handheld operation, you can get great performance from this at different levels, depending on whether you're the codec you're using or the lens mount that you're using. Following on with that, we also have the autofocus capability, which is very similar to the FX6, FX9. It's basically clear, and when you kick in the variable ND, it's a two-stop hit, so it goes to 0.6 directly, and it goes all the way up to 2.1. You can do that in one-stop increments, or you can have it completely variable, and you can also have auto ND. So you can have this following from inside to outside and auto correcting for ND correction. Just as you run and gun with that uncontrolled lighting environment. So people that have used FX6, FX9 that love this feature, you get all the same features with this camera, but with a full frame sensor like this. So the full frame sensor is 8.6K, so it's very similar spec to the Venice 2. It has full frame and Super 35 modes. It's dual base ISO, which matches the Venice, which is 800 and 3200. That also equates to 16 stops of latitude we get with the camera. So from 18% gray, you have 6 stops over, 10 stops under. And because we use the same CFA on the Bayer pattern of the sensor, we have a color science that matches Venice and Venice 2. So you can intercut these cameras with absolutely no issues at all. It's a very close match. The fast hybrid autofocus has up to 627 points on the sensor. So this is what makes it different from a Venice sensor. It is actually has autofocus capability built in, and that covers up to 89% of the image area. Obviously, that's in full frame mode. If you go to Super 35, you're going to get less points, but you still get a fast coverage in Super 35 mode. These are the resolutions that the Burano offers. As you can see, the blue and the pink are the full frame modes, and then the green and the red are the Super 35. So in full frame, full width of the sensor at 36 millimeters, you'll get 8.6K, either a 17:9 or 16:9. And what's interesting in this mode is that in 16:9, compared to a Venice, you actually get more resolution, vertical resolution out of the sensor. You're capturing that's the highest amount of photo sites you can capture is in 16:9 mode, compared to 17:9, which is a little less height on the sensor. That follows down through all the different modes. 16:9 will always give you more vertical resolution. There's also a full frame crop 6K mode. What that is doing, that is resampling from an 8K extraction of the sensor down to 6K and recording that as either XOCN or downsampling it to 4K for video codecs. If you go to the Super 35 modes, you get the Super 35 5.8K, which matches pretty much like a Venice 2 would do in Super 35 mode. Again, the 16:9 is a little taller. It'd be a little narrower on a Venice 2. And then we have Super 35 crop, which is a direct 4K extraction from the sensor. And that will allow us to get up to 120 frames a second with the camera. So this is the frame rates that we can achieve with the Burano, different in the different modes. So in full frame 8.6K, we can go up to 30 frames per second. In full frame cropped 6K or Super 35 5.8K, the data rates between these two modes will be very, very similar, and that allows us to go up to 60 frames a second. And then the Super 35 cropped 4K takes you all the way up to 120 frames a second. The codecs that come with the camera, as I mentioned, we have XOCN LT. That is our 16-bit linear raw sensor data codec. We also have multiple video codecs in here. So depending on the resolution that you're shooting on the sensor, we have everything from 8K XAVC-H, which is our H.265 HEVC codec. That's available in intra as a HQ, SQ, and even long-op, all 10-bit 422 modes. Once you go down to full frame crop 6K and below, the video codec changes to XAVC intra or long. And that's our classic H.264, which has been around for quite a while now, as either 4K, UHD, or even HD. So this camera can record everything from HD long-op H.264 all the way up to 8K H.265, and even up to 16-bit linear XOCN LT for raw workflows. The benefit with the HEVC is that even though the data capture is much bigger, the efficiency is much better over H.264, and if you compare in bit buckets, you'll get better performance out of HEVC than you would out of a H.264. So on the operator side, you can see there's the buttons fall very close to hand for an operator that's using this on his shoulder or using it as a run and gun type application. You have the ND filters control. Let me just change my pointer option to laser. So we have ND control in here. So if you want to do step control of the ND, so one-stop increments, you can control it from here. You flip the switch over, you have ND variable control here, or you can go into auto ND as well if you wanted to just have the camera ride the ND control. Menu buttons here take you directly into the menus for quick setup and for deep menu access if you needed to do that. Display for OSD on or off. User buttons. On this side, there's 3 buttons. There's 1, 2, and 3 down here. There's a 4th button on the other side of the camera, which we'll see on the next slide. And then there's 4 user buttons on the LCD viewfinder. And then if you have the optional grip, there's 3 more. So that gives you a total of 11 user buttons on this camera. Audio controls here for the 2 audio channels. You can use an MIchel if you wanted to do that by using the original FX9 handle on the top of the camera. CF Express Type B slots in here, 2 slots. So you can do relay record, you can do simultaneous record. SD card down here for loading LUTs, saving all files, or actually using it to record as a proxy for the camera. So if you wanted to record high res on the CF Express, you could do a proxy record on the SD card. Slot select down there. Mini speaker here and a microphone on this side, and then a lock for the buttons on the operator side, and then clip playback. You can review clips by going into that menu there. On the outside of the camera, you have the SDIs. You have SDI 1 and 2. Depending on the codec that you're using, this can go up to 4K output over SDI, and this will be an HD output on SDI 2. Typically, they're paired together, so they'll either be HD or 3G SDI coming out of here. Timecode in and out, and Genlock in and out as well. So you set it for in and out using the switch on here. Ethernet control on the back of the camera. That will support the RCP S700 protocol for live applications. That will be coming in version 1.10, which is in the summer of 2024, because we're not shipping the camera until, we're saying spring 2024 right now. It could be brought a little bit further forward, but typically I think March time is probably a good guesstimate as to when we will actually be shipping X-Factory on these. The other user button here is for number 7 is up there. There's a USB-C, which you can use for control of the camera or file transfer directly from the camera. It is built around the Alpha SDK. We have a monitor control application, very similar in concept to what Bob was showing us with the Blackmagic, that will allow us to control the camera, view proxies, push proxies to the web and stuff like that. So a very similar type application, but called monitor and control from Sony. That's working with the FX30, FX3, and the FX6 right now. When Burano is shipping, it will be fully supporting for Burano at that time. You'll see it is a 4-pin DC input to the camera. It is a 12-volt camera, which means it has a range from 11 volts to 17 volts. There is no 24-volt support on this camera. You can try it once and then that's it. It is a 12-volt camera. Do not try and put 24-volt into this camera. It has a very good power consumption. It's rated at around 50 watts in normal operation. So we've been getting very, very good performance out of some 100-watt-hour batteries, more than 2-hour runtime with these cameras. So they just seem to run forever and ever with the latest technologies. And it is a V-mount, comes from the factory as a V-mount. If you want to use gold mount, then there would need to be an adapter plate attached here, which may not be a bad thing, because then you have additional power accessories capability directly from the battery plate. So we think that's a positive. And this is the viewfinder / LCD. So this is basically how you control the camera. What we have is a viewfinder that also has auto touch focus so you can use it for touch focus with E-mount lenses. When you press the home button on the viewfinder, you bring up the big 6 menu, just like you would on a Venice. So we have FPS mode, we have EI/ISO, we have shutter, we have ND value, the look that's being applied, and the white balance. And these are all touch controllable from the panel, or you can use the 6 buttons on the outer edge of the panel. There's 8, 9, and 10, 11 of the user buttons. So these are the additional 4 user buttons that would give you direct control to key features. And this is some different scenarios of how we would use this. It comes with the loop and the viewfinder, so you could use it on the shoulder mounted with a loop like this. If you remove the loop, you can use it just with the viewfinder like this if you wanted to have touch autofocus and just run and gun shooting like that, which a lot of people find very popular these days, rather than using a viewfinder loop. And you can see how it looks from the other side just down here. The media, like I mentioned, is VPG 400 CF Express Type B memory cards. That means they're guaranteed for 400 megabytes read-write sustained. That is really the minimum we recommend for this camera. Some of the lower resolutions, like the HD long GOP, you could probably use lower, but if you want to use the higher XAVCs or certainly XOCM, then we would need to use the VPG 400. And we are introducing 2 models at the same timing as the release of the camera, which is the 1 terabyte, and we have a 2 terabyte version here. That will give you quite an incredible record time, especially if you have 2 of these cards in there. You could probably run for longer than a day, easily over a day, with no issues at all. The one and only option that comes with the camera is the grip, which is similar in concept to what we had with an FX6, FX9. It's more robust, it's more flexible. It has a release button here, so you can actually easily change the angle and having to undo the rosette and retighten. You can actually quickly adjust using that release mechanism. It will work with the FX6, but it's targeted directly for the Burano. And that is the only option that comes for the camera. There are no licenses like you would have with a Venice. Everything is included, including full frame mode, de-squeeze modes, and stuff like that is all included in the camera. And that's pretty much a very quick summary of what the Burano is. So I'll hand it back if that's okay.
The OLED DVF that comes with, or that actually connects to Venice 2, the EL200.
Yeah, no, unfortunately not. No.
No, okay.
No, that won't happen.
Okay.